Hey everyone, I'm Charting Man Dan, back in the saddle, checking in on the cannabis sector here with Joey Jungle Funk. How you doing, Joey?
I'm doing good. And for the folks paying attention at home, you'll realize that this is a crypto check-in, not a cannabis check-in. So Dan's just testing you. He's got to see how everybody's been
Same
paying
thing.
attention through the years. So
Crypto, cannabis, same thing. We got your lighting. You're like the evil analyst, and I'm the angel analyst.
that's how it's got to be, right? You know.
All right, shut up. Let's go. Bitcoin. So we got a daily equilibrium, and the title of this stream is Volatility is Incoming. And we say that when we have tightening ranges that we know we're going to break one way or the other. And as I've said many times, right now, what we're seeing, Bitcoin is doing the exact same thing as the NASDAQ. There's literally nothing different going on. So just to prove it to you, because people love to say there's no correlation, on the left here, I've got Bitcoin. We had a big red day Thursday last week. We bounced to a lower high. We held the low of Thursday, and now we're tightening up. Here's the NASDAQ. It looks different because it's no weekend candles. It's more condensed. Here's your big red Thursday. Here's a bounce to the lower high. And here is the hold of the low of last Thursday into a bounce attempt. It's literally the same thing. Now, what's the difference? We can look and note minute differences. Joey, what are some differences that you see?
We got relative strength on Bitcoin here today. The Nasdaq, it's trying to bounce, but we can see Bitcoin's above the high of yesterday. Nasdaq is certainly a good bit away from that still, and bulls certainly welcome that because there's no doubt that with the broad market, the S&P 500 entering weekly consolidation and a bunch of our subsectors within, that does tick the needle that Bitcoin would follow, and bulls just love to see the relative strength, especially after losing daily 12 EMA.
Yeah, that was the answer. So
Nice.
Bitcoin bounce retracement, 62% or so, a little bit more than that. And QQQ at this point is probably, 382 bounce retracement from where we just came from. So that's the major difference between the two. Bitcoin has relative strength compared to the NASDAQ, but they are still very much doing very similar things. So I'm going to be watching the NASDAQ futures chart on the 12-hour. That's where I'm finding clarity. The bulls still need to confirm an hourly uptrend to set a convincing 12-hour higher low if we're going to continue to get this equilibrium going. But the way that Bitcoin breaks, and essentially the way I view this, let's say I only care about Bitcoin, I'm watching the NASDAQ. It's just a piece of the puzzle. So if Bitcoin heads up to resistance and the NASDAQ breaks bear, I can make note of that. It doesn't mean I sell all my Bitcoin, but it means be a little bit extra cautious. That's not the ideal scenario. Whenever I'm taking a trade or in a trade, I want to highlight what is the ideal scenario so I know to recognize and say, yes, stay aggressive, stay in your full position, or no, it's not ideal. Maybe size down a little bit, be a little bit more protective. It helps me know when to pump the gas or to pump the brakes with my aggression when I am trading. So Bitcoin, essentially the direction that this tightening range breaks is going to dictate whether, if it's a bear break, we enter weekly consolidation and likely tighten up the vast majority of June. If we break this daily equilibrium bear, I anticipate that we're going to trade between 60 and 70,000 for a couple weeks because I will be looking for a weekly higher low as the most likely result, at least initially. And of course, if we break bull, we're going to be looking at a test of the all-time high. And that is welcomed. The burden's on the bears for me because we are in a daily uptrend. And right now we have a new daily higher low, 60, we'll just call it 67,000 on the dot. So Bitcoin, solid day today. And we want to see bulls hold these gains. All right, let's move on. So ETH, with all the headlines of the ETF, we still don't exactly know when the ETF is going to begin trading, but we're going to continue watching. For me, it's all about ETH BTC. And again, ETH right now, daily uptrend, trying to set a daily higher low, anything above 35.20. And we need the 4-hour trend change back to the bulls if that is going to be shaping up. What are you watching on ETH BTC, Joey?
Just the monthly 12 EMA. If you zoom out to the monthly here, we can see that the last 4 times or 3 times that we've tested it, we've rejected, and it's kind of been a similar sentiment on those tests of just like, all right, it's ETH time. But then bears end up defending it, and bulls fail to get the weekly uptrend. That's the key thing that we haven't had in ages, is a weekly uptrend. So if we want this time to be different, bulls got to get the first weekly uptrend on ETH BTC in well over a year at this point.
Yeah, what I want to see again, because this candle right here was the same thing. This is it. It's time for ETH. And then we failed the uptrend. And you could even draw a downtrend resistance line if you want a nice visual guide. Putting it right there, you can see how many rejections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, now 7. Very clear rejections in the last year. In an ideal world, I want to see a quick weekly higher low. So I want to see this current week close weak as it currently is. And I want to see a quick back test of these EMAs, hold them, and then break that recent high to lead to the first bull cross of these EMAs. EMA 12 and 26, trying to cross bull for the first time since they crossed bear, and that was 15 months ago. So if we could get both of those things, we could say first weekly uptrend in over a year, first bull cross of these EMAs in over a year. That would be a potential longer-term bottom signal being set. So that is the most important thing for me with where we stand.
How are you viewing the psychology of kind of the dangling carrot now? With Bitcoin, we knew the ETFs were likely coming, and that was like the front end dangling carrot. But now we have ETH is kind of a surprise that this is likely going to happen, then it gets approved, and now we have like a different dangling carrot of these might start trading in June, they might not start trading until August. Do you think that ETH remains kind of a hype name within the space as we just await that news? Do you think that if we get a run up into an official date, that ends up being sell the news? Or obviously we need more information to speculate too much, but where's your mind at?
Yeah, if we run hard into the actual trading date, if we get a headline, oh, the trading date's going to be in 2 weeks, and then we run hard into that, that would definitely make me more cautious of a sell the news reaction. But really, the market, in my opinion, has no idea what the inflows are going to look like on ETH. And I don't either, because you can look at it two ways. You can look at it and say, this ETF was unexpected. So anybody that was going to, boomers, whoever, were going to allocate into crypto, they did so through the Bitcoin ETF. So let's say, all right, I want 3% of my portfolio in crypto. I've got my 3% in Bitcoin right now, and that's all I expected. So now what? Well, now do I take half of my Bitcoin and sell it to diversify into ETH? Do I say, well, instead of 3%, I'll go 5%? I think that's the less likely scenario. Essentially, where's the capital going to come from into this ETF? And I don't expect the inflows to be anything comparable to what Bitcoin saw. We know Bitcoin smashed so many records and had just been putting on an absolute show of how much dollar volume was coming in. But it's just how much are we going to see come into ETH? And I think it's just a big question mark. So, once the first week of information that we get for what the inflows actually are and comparing them to Bitcoin, I mean, you're going to see all over Twitter just the comparisons. You're going to see we've got 20% of what Bitcoin had in the first week, or 70% of what Bitcoin had in the first week. And those two headlines are going to give completely different reactions. So it'll definitely be wait and see. But I think until we get them, there again, like you mentioned, the dangling carrot does keep people holding on a bit longer. I mean, people that aren't using charts fundamentally their mindset can be, well, I'm going to hold at least till we start getting some inflows, and then maybe I'll take some profit or whatever. But it's looking ahead to this unknown event, and excited to see how it plays out. I don't have any short-term ETH positions. I traded ETHE a little bit on this reaction, but actually I want to pull up that chart. I haven't looked at it in a day or two. Yeah, still real strong there. It's just so illiquid. It's extremely difficult to trade. If you're used to trading like Tesla and all these liquid things, then you go to this, it's a completely different game. But we could say 34.87 is short-term support, and it's still holding on really well. And it's obviously correlated to ETH, but certainly not tick for tick. And so worth keeping an eye if we get another leg up here, because we can see it's stronger. This is when ETH was topping back in March. and we are over that level right now, or at that level right now, having already broken it, which would be the same as if ETH was trading. So there's a little bit, it's a little bit stronger than what spot ETH is doing. But as I was saying, I don't have a short-term position right now, but my long-term no-touch positions, pretty much my ETH bag is the same size as Bitcoin. So I'm in no rush to be doing short-term things with it at the moment. If we confirm that weekly uptrend in ETH BTC, that will change for me. That's really the check mark for me to, okay, time to be focusing on ETH more than BTC once that happens.
Yeah, really, once that happens, that'll increase the odds of a yearly bull flag. I know that's super zoomed out on ETH BTC, but we can see if we look at Matic BTC, you can see the like alternative of how it could go. Like once that quarterly equilibrium broke bare, it ended up just bleeding out forever. Yeah, I'm a log guy, so it looks a lot more bull flaggy on log than linear there.
Yeah. Where's there it
But
is. I honestly, well, yeah, that definitely does look a lot different. I would be more of an equilibrium.
yeah,
I'd be looking for a multiple year equilibrium if we get a move here that sets that bottom, and then maybe 2026 we're talking about the forever equilibrium that's breaking an ETH BTC. We'll see. All right, let's talk about coin a little bit. I've got a coin swing position. Been talking about this in some of the crypto guest spots that I've been doing. It was just a falling wedge and liked the spot for it. And then of course we got the ETH headline, which was a nice benefit to keep it going. But in the short term, obviously the direction that Bitcoin breaks this sideways daily range is going to have significant implications. And I've got an IBIT swing position for Bitcoin in my IRA, and I will exit that if this tightening range breaks bearish just to be a little bit more protective. But with coin, my stop loss right now is under the last daily higher low, which is small green if I stop out at that level. But I'm a little bit cautious right now just because we broke today to the highest level in a month plus with zero follow through. And anytime we see that, we know, all right, let's scout to see if a potential rising wedge is forming. And so on the 4-hour time frame, I'm now watching this pattern to see if it is a rising wedge. And essentially, if Bitcoin breaks its sideways range bear, this is going to break bear into a clear daily pullback. And if Bitcoin breaks the sideways range bull, then coin is likely going to be up 250 plus. So we know the volatility is coming in Bitcoin. And so this is just a cascading effect of all the things for me personally that's going to be impacted. My IBIT position, things I'm doing with coin. So definitely looking to pay extra attention to crypto. It's probably going to be next week, right? We got Friday and then the slow weekend. So we're probably not going to get a Bitcoin break until next week, but I know that I'm going to be paying extra attention to crypto positions and stock positions related to crypto early next week. And coin still performing, just want a nice breakout with follow through, which we're not getting at the moment. You've been trading any crypto stocks? I know you're not, your futures mostly.
I was doing Mara when the volatility was a bit higher, kind of into the initial top of it, and then now I do IBIT for day trading primarily. So that's one thing personally I'm excited to get the ETH ETF to be able to kind of work the whole relative strength, relative weakness game into crypto through the stock account, because IBIT itself has allowed me to use way more dollar volume than I use on crypto exchanges. And even though I'm just day trading it, it ends up doing me better than having a smaller crypto account that I'm swing trading or doing this and that, because I can hit it with 10 times, 20 times the size. So to now have ETH head into that stable, I'm excited about. And then it's also kind of got me wondering, are there going to be any other coins? I know those are obviously the two biggest coins, but is this going to be a thing over the next few years where it's like, all right, there's chatters of a Sol ETF or something,
That's the assumption that ETH is about to open up the door for a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
So I think people are assuming that's the case.
that would be sweet.
And one thing to note, both of us being full-time traders, it's just the difference psychologically, I will take day trade setups on IBIT that I would not take on spot Bitcoin, all because of the fees. Because, if I'm just trying to get, a 0.5% move can be worth it for me on a day trade if it's fee free. If there's fees, 0.5% is not worth it. So it really changes my psychology when looking at trade setups, knowing that there is a fee free instrument to be trading in this space. And I know that that's the case for, again, anything that's the case for me. I know I can magnify that by tens of thousands of other traders. And I think that's obviously where a lot of the dollar volume comes from on these ETFs that we now have access to. One more thing I want to look at, and if you guys all have in the chat room here and YouTube any requests, we'll get reading the chat here in just a bit. Still looking at Binance. Binance is still just grinding sideways, but this is healthy sideways consolidation at this point. And for me, it's just the weekly higher lows. If you keep forming weekly higher lows, the bulls keep complete control. And we're just knocking on the door of all-time highs here. And let's go to the monthly perspective. You can see it's just consolidating sideways. I won't call it a cup and handle because we don't have a bull flag there, but the psychology is there. You're failing resistance and you're consolidating in a very healthy manner. I wouldn't put it in a textbook to be a cup and handle, but the pattern is there as far as I'm concerned, the psychology of the pattern. So checking Binance BTC, we have to see a shift here because we had a rising wedge that broke bear, and we need to see the bulls on the BTC pairing regain some strength, and that might be a weekly higher low attempt, which is trying to form right now. So long story short, keep an eye on Binance because it's very boring right now. It's one of the more bullish altcoins out there because of its proximity to all-time highs, but there's going to come a time where in a few days span, everybody's going to be talking about BNB because it's making a very volatile move when it breaks this range. And I anticipate that that's going to be sometime in June here. Just imagining what 4 more weekly candles will look like. Can't get much tighter than this. So set your alerts, set your volume alerts and price level alerts, and keep an eye on Binance.
And with that, we've still got a lot of other alts. I'm going to pull up my chart here. And reminder to everybody, if you go to our website and go to resources, there's Crypto Corner. And in there, you can get a link to this watch list where I move things around. It's all organized by the 2-day EQ names, the names that were in 2-day EQs that broke bull. And we've still got a slew of very tight alts right now. So if Bitcoin breaks its daily range, and we can just kind of hyper click through these a little bit, you can just see that volatility is waiting to come in many names. Phil USDT, that is very tight. We're going to get volatility soon. Does Bitcoin's daily tightening range breaking trigger a bunch of these alts to go? We know we had some of them break bull already, and with mixed follow through on it. Sol had good follow through, RMDR, Link, AAVE, but then some of our other names are kind of looking like 2-week bear flags. But I reckon that the direction that Bitcoin breaks and what we get with Bitcoin dominance as it just rides the 2-week 12 EMA. Volatility coming. It's been kind of tame across the space, but that's how the markets work. They lull you to sleep, and then these EQs break. And, it's one of those things that if you're not prepared for it, you can find yourself looking back in a week's time up 50% or down 50% and just be like, dang, why did I sleep on that? So like Dan said, set your alerts, make game plans. We've got some folks in the room like Chris Shermer. That guy can hold a lot of positions, and he's got like 28 alts because he's been bottom fishing these ranges, and he sells and gets risk free, and he's just ready for the breaks to go. If that's your style, you can do that. You can pick your favorite one. You can look at alt ratios that are showing some promise, but lots of opportunity likely coming in June, as Dan said. So, if we look at Link, that's great follow through on it. It's staying super healthy. Lots of room for a daily higher low compared to 44.2 rather. A little daily stair step, probably 4-hour, 12 EMA rider. It was, but we've lost it. So that's the first sign of some daily consolidation, but got to break the stair step. So you have a name like that that's looking to consolidate, but then you have a name like AAVE that has already gotten its consolidation and now trying to form a daily higher low off the 12 EMA. So that's the beauty of the alt space. You usually, there's something for everybody. There's something for everybody, and names are in different stages of kind of this same shell of progression. So another thing I wanted to note is our DEX coins continue to remain stronger than other folks. So we've got Uni right now trying to get a daily higher low set, big follow through on its 2-day EQ. And like this bull break, this is what every other alt wants to see. And, you know, they won't all see it, but this is the ideal situation. And we're seeing rotation within the DEXs. So we know 1 inch was weaker than everybody else out the gate. And then the last 3 days, it got its pump. CRV still kind of weak. Is that going to catch the next round of rotation? You know, no one knows, but just good to have a game plan for these things if they do. And what's the other one I wanted to look at? Oh, ARKM. I don't know why I always struggle to say that, but another tight daily range here. But the reason that this has extra attention or warrants extra attention is we're just below all-time highs. It's not quite as close as BNB, but, you know, actually looking at this right now, this looks quite similar to how Bonk looked. We had the big pullback, we came up, we tightened up, and then Bonk. Where are you, Bonk? Yeah, that's almost the same thing, but Bonk is like 3 weeks ahead of it. Big pullback, tighten up, get the bull break, and big time follow through. So speaking of Bonk, that could be kind of a cup and handle if bulls hold daily 12 EMA. So let's see, what do they got to do to get a daily higher low set? 4-hour bounce is underway. Got to regain a 4-hour uptrend. So got to see a little more follow through to give us some confidence that we've got room for a daily or a 4-hour higher low, and then go for the trend change from there. So that's pretty much what I'm looking at, but we'll drop the link to the crypto corner in the chat here. And I stay on top of this watch list, and it helps keep organized because there's so many coins. How can you stay organized otherwise? All right.
All right, put my screen back up. I'm going to do a couple requests here.
You're back up.
And then we've got a futures question if you want to read that and get ready to answer it in a bit.
Okay.
All right, so BCH, we've got clear daily downtrend, but I like the weekly for clarity. This is a pattern where we have to be cautious of head and shoulders just because it's a clear uptrend, way more retracement than bulls want to see, lower high set. So if we were to drop down and break 399, again, everything is in the context of how is Bitcoin going to break. So if Bitcoin breaks bear, then BCH is going to head back towards 399 support. If that level breaks, we confirm a weekly downtrend, which obviously the bulls do not want to see. Bulls want to see a hold of 399 and a break of 530 to be back in a weekly uptrend. So again, the context of how Bitcoin is going to break is going to have significant implications here. But we need that weekly higher low to be set as soon as possible to negate this potential weekly bear flag, which is what the bounce of the last couple of weeks is currently shaping up as. RNDR. So RNDR, again, watching to see, are we going to just see a weekly equilibrium? We got the all-time high, the low, the big time pullback, big bounce, significant bounce retracement, 50% plus. Do we set that lower high and tighten up a lot of the summer? If Bitcoin breaks the sideways range bear, we're going to head down and likely set that weekly lower high. If it doesn't, we'll keep hanging on. But if you show me just this chart and say, what's the most likely scenario? I always scout an equilibrium. Just because when you have that much volatility in both directions, you open up the space that we now have to digest and trade around within. And so key short-term support here, 970, that breaking would say, yep, tightening range for a lot of June is shaping up. One more. Mana. I haven't looked at Mana in a while. So Mana is tight and sideways. It's certainly a weak bounce at this point. So low, high of the bounce, higher low, anything under 50 cents keeps us very range bound and sideways. And again, you can look back and this is probably the least amount of volatility we've seen in the last year plus. So we know that's going to break. And essentially, having no position, I look at this and say, nothing changes on this chart until one of those two levels breaks. We've got, you can look at 39-cent key support, 50-cent key resistance. We are right now smack dab in the middle. Nothing changes in this chart until one of those levels wins, until there's a clear break and turn of resistance into support or support into resistance. And yeah, you just got to be patient and wait for a chart that looks like this, because not a lot's going to go on until one of those levels is claimed. You see that futures question?
Yeah, so DP, in regards to the Coinbase futures, I don't know anything about the Coinbase futures other than what folks have talked about in the chat room here. And I can kind of compare it to like the standard futures market where you have contracts rolling over each month. Essentially on TradingView, what it does is you get what's called the continuous contract, where it kind of Frankensteins together all of those, what you would call the front contract. So the month that's actually trading, it Frankensteins that all together and gives you a continuous chart. So if you were trying to manually track the Coinbase futures volume, you would probably just need to write down what it was each month. But that being said, we just had a thread in the chat room 2 days ago about, what's the viability of the Coinbase futures, and the understanding that folks came to was that it's just not developed enough yet. It's super low volume. Like the volume there doesn't even compare to the actual like CME Bitcoin futures. So I probably wouldn't fret too much about what the new low volume Coinbase futures are doing. Like if a lot of people start trading them, and folks like Dan and myself are now trading perpetual contracts on Coinbase instead of spot, then it will become more important of a metric. But essentially your dollar volume there is probably like 1% of what it is elsewhere. So just not worth the bandwidth.
Someone gave us $2. I'll give you a quarter of it.
Sweet.
Thanks, DP. His question is, how does one express themselves creatively trading? So one way is expressing yourself creatively outside of trading through other means, which is a lot easier in my opinion. But there are plenty of ways. Really, for me, it's interacting with other people in the chat room and through conversation. Or today I posted a chart about getting stopped out at break even right before AI took off, and I had little pictures on it, and that's my art. So that's another way. What would you say, Joey?
To take a bit more of like a direct trading approach with it, I think our styles and approaches, like that is creative expression. It's not as in traditional of a sense as Dan with his master meme work there. But like I would say, my style, I like doing these small time frame stair steps and getting out quick and getting risk free and this and that versus, maybe scaling in or something. And I don't know, I kind of view that as like more of like a creative practice than like a straight up expression. But yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting question, because the other thing is, it could be like your analysis style, because there's definitely creativity involved in kind of piecing together the puzzle, and everyone's going to piece it together a bit differently, and using your different points of confluence, your different edges, and the way that one may synthesize all of that, I would definitely say is a creative expression.
All right, let's wrap it up.
One more thing. We're running a spring sale right now, or summer sale at the Chart Guys. It goes until Friday, so you got till tomorrow. We'll drop the link in the chat. It's for an annual membership, $200 off, and the community's a pretty sweet place. Like to be able to answer your question about Coinbase futures when I haven't done anything with Coinbase futures yet. That's just a perfect example of the power of having 1,000 people in a room all grinding stuff and working together, and with the mindset of helping each other. It's really a special place. So check it out. Link will get dropped in chat. And then Lori is doing a webinar tonight at 5 p.m. on eliminating bad habits from your trading. So that's going to be a banger, and such a crucial topic, because if we only had our wins, then obviously our equity curve is going to be great. But it's ultimately our bad habits that draw us down and hold us back. And so much of trading is raising our floor and in turn having that raise our ceiling. So that is going to be 5 p.m. today.
All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Don't forget to do good things. Hope you have a wonderful Thursday afternoon.
Farewell.